Good day, everyone. I am Lizelle Esperjon, leader of this research group, and I would be the representative of our group to discuss you today our research proposal. So this video presentation will include the discussion of the title, the introduction, and as well as the methodology. Now, without further ado, let's begin. So before we proceed, I would just like to introduce the other researchers responsible for the study. My group mates is Del R. De La Cruz, Richland Joy, Enriquez Jennifer, and Camano Laren. So our research is entitled Relationship Between Time Spent Watching English Movies to the Level of English Proficiency. So we chose this topic because language is very broad and narrow at the same time. We came from different races, which resulted in different languages. So that is why we as researchers came to this topic so that we as individuals can have a better understanding about language. We chose this topic as well for the reason that we found various issues or problems regarding with language in our society. So, also to what we have stated in our research problem, our curriculum here in our country is focusing mainly 8 to 10 subjects. With this, we the researchers would like to know if our students here can actually learn and be proficient in English language through the means of our technology world. Now, or to be specific, through watching movies. Mainly, our motivation upon doing this research is the aim of our Department of Education that is aiming for a globally competitive students. And we can attain this one through learning the universal language that we have, the English language. So for the background of the study, although the world is consisting of many countries with different primary languages, American movies have stood out the most in terms of popularity. In fact, according to a research by Stephen Follows Film Data and Education 2018, across the 8,798 movies studied, 81.4% featured English as one of their main languages. Having English as our universal language, it is quite inevitable for English movies to travel overseas. Since then, it has become one of the reasons why learning English can be now achieved in viewing films. So the ability to communicate effectively is essential for our existence. So as a medium of communication with others, it is important to understand it better. Since the film industry's enormous success in the United States, it has been a main source of entertainment for a general public. Over the years, films have had a profound impact on people's attitude, behaviors, cultures, and even languages. The language of the world is English, and as a result, it is a vital for us to learn in addition to our mother tongue. Since then, American films have been worldwide acclaimed and they have become a popular method of learning the English language among non-native speakers, especially with us Filipinos. So for the statement of the problem and rationale, here is Miss De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mrs. Perevian. For the next topic, which is statement of the problem, movies that use English is as their language, like American movies, has been used as a language teaching tool for many years. It seems that most of the existing studies focus on enhancing students' motivation and listening skills by using English language movies. But American movies as a form of entertainment are far more enticing to the youth eyes, and film viewing became an activity that allows them to acquire knowledge by themselves. Movies are generally designed to be enjoyed for their entertainment value. Individuals have, on the other hand, utilized American films as a learning strategy to strengthen the grasp of English language. What isn't clear is if these sorts of films have an impact on the level of expertise of individuals who are viewing them in this manner. And now let's proceed to rationale or justification of the study. It is often said that English is one of the hardest language to learn. For people who do not know how English as a primarily language, learning a new language is a complex process that demands a huge investment of time and effort. Second language educators often provide different methods of teaching by using different English resources to find the most effective way of learning and teaching the language.
So, there have been studies conducted that demonstrate that learning the English language is quite difficult. People who watch American movies are more likely to be able to adapt and communicate effectively in the language. Nowadays, a large number of students often state that they have learned to speak English more via the consumption of the information from films than through academic settings. This particular phenomena has the potential to serve as a learning approach for students seeking to enhance their English comprehension and spoken communication abilities. Non-native English speakers are more likely than native English speakers to use film watching as a technique of teaching and learning English. The findings are ambiguous as to what specifically the effects of seeing American movies on their language skills and professions. For the research questions, here is Miss Enriquez.
Let's proceed to our next topic, research questions. In this, the researchers conducted this research that will lead us to know the relationship between watching English movies to the level of English proficiency among senior high school students. These are the questions that we will use as a guideline for performing the research in this project. The overall goal of the study is to determine the relationship between watching American movies and the level of English proficiency among students in senior high school age. In particular, it seeks to provide answers to the question, how often do the students watch American movies? How well the students of know English? Thus, their time spent watching American movies have a significant impact on their level of English proficiency. For the hypothesis, here is Miss Esperidion.
Thank you, Ms. Enriquez. So, for the hypothesis, it was stated in the form of alternative hypothesis, which state that the time spent watching American movies has significant relationship on the student's level of proficiency in English. So the researcher thinks that the amount of the time spent viewing English movies has a substantial impact to the student's ability to communicate effectively in the English language. So Ms. Camano will discuss about the objectives and scope and limitations of the study.
Thank you, Ms. Spurgeon. General objectives of the study. Generally, the study aims to determine the relationship between time spent watching English movies to the level of English proficiency. Specifically, to determine the time spent watching English movies of the respondents, to determine the level of English proficiency of the respondents, to determine if there is any significant relationship between the time spent watching English movies to the level of English proficiency of the participant. So overall, the objectives of the study was to read only. Scope and limitation of the study. The study entitled Relationship Between Time Spent Watching American Movies to the Level of English Proficiency
is aiming to conduct the study on the senior high school students that are enrolled in the school year 2021 to 2022. The study does not include any information that is not relevant to the intended goal and expected findings. The participant will only be the students that will provide legitimate information regarding the study. So, the senior high school students who are now enrolled in this year 2021-2022 will be the primary focus of the research. The duration of time spent viewing English movies as well as the degree of competencies in the English language will be the primary emphasis of the research. Any additional items that are not explicitly listed in the goals will be excluded from considerations. Conceptual framework, here is Ms. De La Cruz.
Thank you, Ms. Camano. And now I will present to you our conceptual framework. Time spent watching American movies will be our independent variable. Level of proficiency will be our dependent variable. Time spent watching American movies will be our independent variable because we believe that this will affect our level of proficiency or the perceptions and the speaking skills of individuals for every student. Our methodology here is Ms. Esperidion.
Thank you, Ms. De La Cruz. Now, for our methodology, the purpose of the study is to examine the impact to the level of English proficiency among high school students in watching movies. In this research, the researcher used quantitative research to address the relationship on watching movies to the level of English proficiency of the students. For the research design, the purpose of the study was to examine the relationship between the time spending of watching movies to the level of English proficiency. This study used correlational methods under non-experimental type of quantitative research. The researcher simply observes and measures the statistical relationship between the time spent watching English movies and their level of English proficiency scale. So, a quantitative research will be used in this observation. So, this study is an example of correlational approach, which is designed to measure the relationship between two variables without the researchers controlling or manipulating either of them. So, we use this type of research methodology because we want to know the tie-up between our independent and dependent variables. This aim to test the relationships between the language and the perceptions and the speaking skills of every individuals. For the respondents, the participants of the study were randomly picked because most of them are learners who tend to learn and improve proficiency because movies aren't just for entertainment after all. They also give you cultural education that enriches your language comprehension. The study consists of 100 participants, but randomly 30 students taken for sampling, 15 girls and 15 boys aged of 17 to 18 years old answering the survey questionnaire were given by researchers. So for the respondents, for this survey will be chosen at random using basic random sampling methods. So the research will include 100 participants. However, 30 students will be chosen at random for sample purposes. So the ages of the respondents vary from 17 to 18 years old. For the research instrument, here is Ms. Camano.
Thank you, Ms. Esperidion. For research instrument, in this study, the researcher will be using the questionnaire as an instrument in collecting facts, data, and information. It is carefully designed intended to answer by respondents. The instruments will be distributed to 30 senior high school students. The survey consists of 10 questions pertaining to 3 questions related to the demographic participants, name, gender, and age. 5 items were intended to gather data pertaining the level of proficiency in watching English movies, and 2 items were set up to assess students' this fluency. For, ob- for the purpose of obtaining information of the respondents, a survey questionnaire will be used in the study. The questionnaire is shown at the screen. Questions: name, gender, age. While watching American movies, to what extent do you understand what you hear? Do you think watching American movies help you to pronounce word correctly? Thus, American movies can help expanding your vocabulary. Why do you say so? How frequent do you watch American movies? Does watching American movies help you to speak naturally? Why is it when you make or construct your own sentence is difficult for you, but when you teach other it is somehow easy? Do you notice repetition and self-corrections during speech and oral presentations? Those are the questions. And for validation of instrument, here is Miss De La Cruz.
Thank you again, Ms. Camano. Before the validation of instrument to test the validity of instruments, the researcher will present to the research advisor and panelists the questionnaires for the validation of content. Study advisors and panelists will examine the validity of the questionnaires content in order to ensure that the research has been properly validated. And here is Ms. Esperidian for the procedure of the study.
Thank you, Ms. De La Cruz. So for the procedure of the study, in conducting this study, the researcher will seek permission first to the Dean of College of Education in conducting the study. Upon the approval of the Dean, the researcher will also ask permission to the advisors of senior high school and to the students who were the respondents of the study. Secondly, the researcher will gather the number of students through random sampling technique. After, they will provide a questionnaire for them to answer. Then, researchers will collect the responses and analyze the result of the data gathered, encode the exact data, and finalize the study. To begin the study, team will seek approval from the dean and then from the advisors of senior high school students. Following that, the researchers will conduct a random selection of the participants. The researcher will next move to the data collection, in which they will distribute questionnaires to the participants. Finally, in order to complete the study, the researcher will gather and evaluate the data. And that would be all. And this is the end of our research presentation. Thank you,
Thank
and
you,
God
and
bless
God
us all.
bless us all.